Welcome to the Private Practice with Soul podcast. My name is Dr. Brooklyn Storm, and I help private practice owners align their business back with their soul's calling, with their big vision and with their soul's purpose. Unlike other private practice coaches, I've traveled the world in search of spiritual resources, spiritual tools, education and information so that you can have the transformation that your soul desires and needs so that you can up-level your business. How much fun is this? I love it so much. Guys, if you're not already a member of the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group, please check out the show notes. I would love for you to be there. In the meantime, thank you so much for pushing play today. Let's begin. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday and welcome to another episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Storm. I want to say thank you very much for pushing play on another episode. Welcome to all the new subscribers and thank you to everybody who's been listening to these for a while and downloading the episodes. I hope that they're providing you with lots and lots of interesting value that's helping you connect your business, your private practice to your soul. And so as I'm talking with you now, I'm feeling a little bit distracted because I have this beautiful crystal quartz generator. And it's on my desk at the moment. And the way that the light is coming through my window, it's highlighting a little piece of the quartz that is reflecting like all different colors of the rainbow. It's really beautiful. A crystal quartz generator just means sort of that stick of crystal that has, the 6 sides on it, and at one end kind of comes to a bit of a point. They're very powerful, those shapes of crystals, those generators, because the idea is that wherever you point the pointy end, that's where the energy from that crystal is directed. But it's just so beautiful and it's just catching my eye. And I think this is a really beautiful sign that we're going to have a great show today and look at things again from lots of different angles. So what I want to talk with you about today is, the business of business in private practice. And I think you may agree with me if you're in solo private practice or you're heading into solo private practice right now, that sometimes there can be, oftentimes actually, there can be a real sense of loneliness, of isolation. You can feel like, you kind of get stuck in your ego. You start to question a lot of things about yourself, about your worth, about your ability, about your competence, with all those sorts of things. And it's very, 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 very common. There's nothing wrong with you for moving through those different learning phases and growth phases of private practice. It happens to just about all of us. We all question ourselves and question our journey at different points along the way. And I think that that's really important to appreciate and to embrace, because I feel like in some ways it kind of reflects and mirrors what our clients are experiencing when they go through their journey. It's not all rainbows, is it? It's difficult. We bump up against things. And it can trigger us. It can make us feel like we don't know enough, and that can make us feel all sorts of other things. And I think when we have people around us that they have good intentions, like friends and family and partners and things like that. I think sometimes after a little while, if we start to doubt ourselves, they start to doubt us as well. And then we get caught up in a little bit of a feedback loop sometimes where they will start to say things like, you know what, you've had a go, but before we lose any more money, why don't you just finish up with the clients you've got and, start looking for a real job. Some women have shared that that's been their experience, and I'm sure it has been for many of us. So I guess the question is how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the isolation in private practice? And I don't know about you, but, I was in private practice for a very long time before I was on Facebook. So I wasn't connected to any groups and I did feel very alone. I wasn't aware really that there were other groups that I could connect with. But when I got onto Facebook I think it was whenever I trekked Everest. So it was, I don't know, I want to say 2016, 17. because the friend that I went to the Himalayas with, she was like on Facebook all the time, and it was driving me bananas because I didn't have her attention, and I really love having attention. What does that say about my shadow values? Come on. Anyway, and so what I figured out was if I wanted her attention, I was going to have to go on Facebook. So that was my soiree into is sort of the social media world. And so we connected on Facebook while we're on Everest hiking together. It was kind of weird but fun at the same time. And it was while I was there that I started connecting with other people. And that's when I first found out about these other groups. And part of me was like, oh my gosh, like what an epiphany. There are other people just like me all around Australia, all around the world who are doing this sort of work. So I was kind of really excited. But at the same time, I kind of went into them and I started straight away, like some of you do, comparing myself to everyone. That wasn't my intention. It was just something that happened. And I was sort of thinking, oh my gosh, well, they're so far ahead of me and I'm stuck way back here and I don't want to embarrass myself. I had like a strong sense of shame and guilt. I was saying I should know more. I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. I felt super competitive, but not in a good way. Like, competitive in that, just comparing myself to others and seeing how far ahead they were and realizing how far ahead I wasn't. It made me feel really disappointed with myself because, I just completely lacked awareness before I was around these other people. So for me, finding these online communities was bittersweet. It was great to be around other people, but in other ways, I found myself holding back a lot because I felt shame and guilt over, not having done as much as they were doing. Because, of course, you don't know what you don't know until somebody mentions it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea about this. So if that's you, don't stress. Like, I think nearly all of us have been there. Don't worry about it. But it can become a problem, I guess, when you don't take action and you don't get the true support that you need. And if you are finding that you're holding back, this is absolutely going to be a problem, because if it remains unaddressed, and you can address it through coaching or supervision or your mentoring. But if it remains unaddressed, then it will have a knock-on effect to your private practice, because energetically we're going to reap what we sow. We're going to receive in our practice what we put out. So if we're holding on to a vibration of scarcity, of shame, of guilt, they're all kind of really associated with a low vibration in terms of what we're going to manifest. So you'll see unwanted things come through to the practice and things that reinforce that belief. It's almost like in psychology, and I think in social work too, and counseling, we would refer to this almost very similarly to a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we think we're not good enough, we're going to attract clients that think we're not good enough. If we think we're not worthy enough, we're going to attract clients that also believe we're not worthy enough. And start thinking about what this is going to mean for your private practice, but what it's also going to mean for you as a woman. All that doubt is going to come in, or all old wounds from that beautiful feminine energy of yours. It may be exposed and may rise up again because it's still needing to be healed. So I guess, I had this experience myself as you know, and as I just shared, and I got really, really defensive. There were other times in my private practice as well that I can recall feeling lonely and isolated, and like I was out there on my own little island. And for me, it was when I started being very open about the importance and the necessity, in my way of thinking, to move beyond the scientific model and embrace and encompass the role of spiritual modalities as well. There's such a great overlap between the two fields, and it's just not recognized openly in some of the more scientific professions like psychology. So I did feel like I was out there, and do you know what? I was out there by myself for a while. So how did I overcome it? Well, I guess what I realized was that my anxiety got really high with the bullying, the heckling from other psychologists that I was experiencing, and from people that had been my mentors were now openly sort of saying, oh, you shouldn't be integrating spirituality with private practice. That's not okay. And so it did create a lot of self-doubt, and I did feel very defensive. So I went through those sorts of darker emotions at the time, and it did make me feel very anxious because I suddenly felt afraid. Like, am I doing something wrong? Is this not okay? What's the problem? What don't I know? So all of that sort of stuff bubbled up to the surface. And as you know, for a hot minute, I doubted myself. But the way that I got through it was by tuning in to my soul and listening to the guidance that came through. And the guidance that came through for me was, this was clear as day, that I absolutely needed to shout it from the rooftops that this is a real thing, like integrating spiritual practice with private practice. And you can get different results. You can get deeper results. You're not confined to 6 sessions or 10 sessions under a scientific Medicare model that restricts the way you work. You know, I want to have the freedom to choose the way that I work. And I think all counselors, social workers, and psychologists should have the right to choose how they want to work with their clients for the higher good of those clients. Not all clients are a great fit for scientific approaches like solution focused or CBT. For example, some clients get better results or results that align with them when they have time and space to sit and reflect and do the deeper work without tracking their thoughts and tracking their emotions and things like this. A more reflective approach works for some clients. And so I guess it was really by anchoring into that, why it was so important to me, why it meant so much to me, that I was able to move through feeling defensive, feeling combative, feeling lonely, and feeling isolated. And here's the other thing that was true for me. When I started to really be more, I mean, other degrees of authenticity, I don't know. I think you're either authentic or you're not. And I don't think I was practicing in a way that was authentic and aligned with me when I was a psychologist. It's why I retired from psychology last year. Now I feel like I get to work in a way that makes my heart sing, that makes my heart sing, that makes me feel whole and complete. And I feel energized when I wake up in the morning and I see my diary and I see all of you guys, you know, and some of my counseling clients booked in, and I just get so excited and so lit up. And honestly, I'm almost pinging around the room because I can't wait to work with you. Like, I love that. And I didn't used to feel like that when I was working under the Medicare umbrella. And that was my reality. That was what was true for me. So I guess by allowing myself to pivot my practice and make that decision to retire from a career that I'd had for 21 years, that I had invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in for training and supervision and professional development and insurances and all those sorts of things, to let that go, to pursue this new way of being in private practice. Now I feel like I get to be myself, and it's by embodying the self-acceptance. And when I say self-acceptance, I appreciate that my approach isn't going to be for everybody. There are always going to be people that need something different, and that's absolutely fine. But now I'm being more me. It means that I get to work with clients who want to work with me for the way I work, for who I am, for the energy that I bring. And I'm sharing this with you because I want you to see what's possible for you too. Like, you can absolutely be the woman in private practice that feels lit up and energized by her clients as a result of being her true self without the fear. Like, I don't worry anymore about a negative comment. I don't worry anymore about being judged. I accept I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I'm totally fine with that. I would just hope that people, if they do want to disagree with something, just do it with respect, as I would to anybody else. So I do have minimum standards of communication. That's not negated at all, but I do appreciate that there's space for everybody. And just while I might not agree with how other people teach private practice, I understand that their way is going to work for some clients, while my way is going to work for others. And that's okay. And I believe that there's an abundance of clients, whether you're a psychologist, a social worker, a counselor, a coach, there's an abundance of clients out there. The market is not saturated. When you have a niche, you speak to a very specific market, and that market is not saturated. There might be lots of us working in related fields, but our client market is not saturated. There's room at the table for everyone. There might be 100 of us that all help with trauma, but we all do it differently, and that's our superpower. And that's what makes us special and unique and different and sought after and desirable by our clients. And I just think that that is so cool that we get to do that. I mean, I love it so much. How lucky are we? And I think it's by being able to accept yourself and accept that others can make the decisions that are right for them, and that that's no reflection on you as a woman. It's no reflection on you as a private practice owner. It's a reflection of them and where they're at. When you understand that, you release that fear of being judged. You just move into this place of self and other acceptance. And it's so liberating and it's so freeing. And when you can do that, you start to receive more inquiries, more bookings, and more referrals from the very, very, very clients that you were born, that you were put on this planet to work with. And that's the beautiful thing. So you move from this space of feeling insecure to feeling very secure, because you're now not only working in alignment with your values, with your core values and with your true purpose and with what your inner guidance is asking you to work in alignment with, but you're also working in a way that is now attractive and attracting the very clients that you want to work with. So this manifestation of beautiful aligned referrals serves to provide you with the security and the trust and the confidence that you can do this, that you are doing this. And it also means that you don't need to be as controlling. You know, we can get out of that wounded masculine energy and stop micromanaging all of the little bits and pieces. We don't have to be stuck in our mind and stuck in our ego, that fear state of what if no one books in? What if no one likes me? What if I lose all these clients as a result of niching down? When we move out of that space as a result of moving into our soul space, all that stuff disappears, it drops away, because now we're heart-centered, relationship-driven women in private practice. So I guess the other thing that I found was a really big lesson for me was there were times in my private practice, and look, I've been in private practice for 25 years, and this is a theme that comes up not only for me, but it comes up for other women as well. It doesn't matter if you're just new or if you're very experienced. All of us, everyone is going to experience this at some time. You will have a sense of feeling very, very insecure. Something will happen in your practice that shakes your foundation, that rocks you to your core. And you're going to have big doubts, and you're going to have sleepless nights. And that anxiety is going to feel palpable, and you will question yourself and wonder if you're okay, and you're going to feel insecure. But here's what I know now that I didn't know when I first started. When those feelings came up for me, like for example, when I got a lot of pushback from integrating spiritual practice with private practice, or another time when I got a lot of pushback around introducing a $15 fee to clients who had never been paying because they'd been bulk billed. When I got pushback from GPs because I was moving from a bulk billing to a private fee paying model. They're just some examples. What was I going to say? That left me feeling very insecure and doubting myself, doubting my abilities and all of those sorts of things. What I know now is at those times when those things were happening, my reaction was to try and shut them down. I just wanted to put my head in the sand and pretend it wasn't happening. I wanted to avoid things. I'm not fantastic with confrontation because confrontation doesn't fit with my spiritual beliefs. I believe that we can all work through things together. So, and I didn't grow up with confrontation. I didn't grow up with, people yelling at me and shouting at me and physically intimidating me. Well, anyway, a whole other story I did to some extent. So it was kind of, I didn't know the rules of that game. I don't know what it's like to get into an argument with somebody about money. I don't know what it's like to intimidate somebody else. Like that's unfamiliar territory for me. And so I felt like a fish out of water because I was a fish out of water. And so my reaction was to comply with what these angry clients, for example, angry that I was charging $15, I had to try and comply in order to get myself out of feeling the physical sensations and the emotional sensations of that anxiety, because I didn't know any better. But what I know now, looking back, is that all of those things that happened, and I know I've said this before, right? But from my experience, it's true. All of those things that happened, I didn't see it at the time. I didn't appreciate it at the time, but they're pain points that happened for me in my practice to help my practice improve and get better, and to help me develop professionally as a woman in private practice. And it was by me taking responsibility. That's really what it boiled down to. It was from me being able to move out of my wounded masculine, where I was feeling very defensive and very insecure. It took me moving out of that space and saying, okay, how am I responsible for this situation? What did I do? What did I say? What was my thoughts or feelings or actions? How was I responsible for bringing this situation about? And you might think, well, you weren't responsible, Brooklyn, for people bullying you over $15. But I was. And it was by allowing myself to settle into the space of exploring my role in that I was then able to take responsibility. And by taking responsibility, I was able to then put measures and remedies in place to stop it from happening again. So what I learned was those difficult times in private practice where you find yourself in that wounded masculine energy, allow yourself to go through it and process everything that you need to process, but do speak to your supervisor, your mentor, or your coach, because this has happened because there has been a process or a policy or a procedure that's been absent from your practice. And this is your opportunity to put something in place, and you can do it in a way that feels aligned with the values of the practice, that feels aligned with your soul, and that feels aligned with your vision for the practice. And believe you me, once you've put that in place, you're going to feel such a sense of relief, because you know now that if this situation or a similar situation arises in the future, you have this safety net now to fall back on. Whether it's your cancellation policy, or whether it's your taking credit card payments policy, or whether it's your zero tolerance policy, or a policy that you've got for parent communication when you're working with a child, you will now have, moving forward, the safety of these good structures in place that support your practice. And guess what? You're not going to ever have to worry about this thing ever being a problem again. And it happened because you took responsibility, and by taking responsibility, you were able to put something in place. Right? So this is the, what it looks like, moving from healing that wounded masculine in your practice and turning that energy back into the sacred masculine or the divine masculine. So in terms of supporting you to make a transformation in your practice this week, I would ask you, have a think about where in your practice are you feeling, and I know it's uncomfortable to think about, but we all have those experiences in our practice, or those little potholes in our practice that we think, oh gosh, I hope this never happens. have a think about where those might be in your practice. Where are you feeling unprepared and you're just praying something never happens? And if you were to take responsibility for that now, if you were to take control of that now, what could you put in place so that when it does happen, or if it does happen, you're going to feel like you can handle it? That's what I want you to do this week. I really want you to identify where that unhealthy masculine is, and I want you to transmute that over into divine masculine by putting something in place that's going to support the practice. Okay? So, do you love it? I love this so much. Once you understand the role of the masculine and the feminine, the wounded masculine, the wounded feminine, everything just starts to make sense with the practice. And I guess what excites me the most about sharing this with you is that I've only learned it recently, like in the last 2 years or so. And I wish I had learned about it when I was just starting, because my practice would have been very, very different and my experiences would have been very, very different. I'm so grateful for the path that I went on, because now it gives me information and experience and knowledge that I can freely share with you to support you in your private practice too. And I just think that that's like the best gift that I could give you in the whole entire world, and it just fills my heart so much with joy to be able to share it. So I hope that this episode has helped you. I want to encourage you not to be afraid of those sticky situations. I want you to sort of see them as an opportunity, like see them as a notification on your phone. Hey, let's get this sorted out now so that if it ever happens, we can feel safe and secure. Okay, well, I hope you love this episode. Feel free to give it a like or share it with a friend who might need to hear it. I want to say I love you so much, and I hope you all have a beautiful day. Thanks, guys. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast today. If you're looking for clarity, if you need help with branding, your processes, and bringing everything into alignment with your soul's purpose for your private practice, head to the show notes and click the link for more information about the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group. You are going to love it. I can't wait to see you in there. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.